What are you talking?
This is
I
voting,
said,
the
Mr.
voting.
Ortiz, what would you do?
Oh, okay.
What would you have done with this situation? As
Okay.
opposed to what was done?
As I said earlier, just like with organizing, you go step by step, and every step you take requires a vote. So yes, you're gonna raise your union dues, there's gonna be a meeting, and there's gonna be a vote. It goes back to what I said, every step requires the membership to know what is going on, okay? Now, I'm not on the executive board, I'm the chairman of Shortline,
I got you.
okay?
So you-
While I was on the executive board for 3 years, my recommendation, whenever we were gonna make a move that required money, like union dues, it have to be put up for a vote. In my 3 years, union dues did not go up.
A vote of the board or the vote of the people?
No, vote of the people,
Okay.
okay? It has to be. I've always said that. You can't make a financial move because it's our money. And I say it very carefully,
Thank you.
our money,
Thank you.
okay?
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, when I was on the executive board, the union dues didn't go up either. But I was on, when the union dues was increased, wait a minute, maybe I was when they did a surcharge. Is that what it is? That's what they call it?
An assessment.
RIP, an assessment. And the president at the time, he spoke very well on it, and yes, I voted for it. What you just mentioned, I did not know that. I can't sit here and say that I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. Had I did, I probably would vote no for it.
Mr. Music?
Well, the Landrum-Griffin Act is actually linked to the local website. I placed the Landrum-Griffin Act on our website so all members could read it easily from home. So of course, I'm totally familiar with it. I was totally familiar with it when I voted with the board unanimously to raise the dues. So the passage that you read, I was totally aware of it. So I asked for a legal opinion. We called the International's lawyer in Washington, D.C., gave him the situation, raised our concerns about Landrum-Griffin. He called us back in our meeting and he said, "Don't worry, I found a loophole, you can do it." And we voted.
Okay, so we're using loopholes to basically screw our own people and raise our dues without our consent, without, our vote, without having to say a word. We're gonna use a loophole to get whatever it is that we wanna get, regardless of what the rank and file want.
Well,
How is that okay?
The question that the former president raised was about the alleged illegality. We received a legal opinion that our vote was not illegal.
And again,
From a lawyer who has-
using a loophole to go around the fact that the rank and file should be voting on this issue. And if you have respect for the rank and file, you would not be looking for a loophole in order to bypass that vote.
What's your
This
question?
is very important to us as rank and file. We should have a say in our money.
Do you have a question?
That's in response to what you said. That's my response to what you said.
Okay, okay, you want a clarification?
No, yeah, it's like.
Okay,
so we're-
please
we're-
clarify.
Okay, the question is, why did you?
Okay,
Wait,
Bill-
Ms.
Vilma,
Fleming, Ms. Fleming,
Let's do it
that
this
was,
way.
that was
She's asking
Vilma's,
for a clarification, and Vilma, would it be correct to say your clarification is why?
Why use a loophole to squash our rights to a vote?
So, James, why did you raise the dues?
Well, the union is in serious debt
You wonder why?
next in line.
due to overspending on legal bills that led to the former president's removal from office.
Okay,
We were left with a situation where we have a huge debt. If you look at the LM2s from last year, you'll see that last year our union already ran at a $20,000 a year deficit. That was before another $70,000 in legal debt was added to what we have.
Now,
Some action had to be taken
sorry,
to preserve this union, to keep us from bankruptcy. And the only way to do that was to raise the dues.
Again, don't you think
Can you-
that
hold-
we as
hold-
rank and file have a right
hold on one
to vote on
second.
that though?
Hold up. Vilma,
We presented.
It's asked and answered. Let's move on to some
Yeah,
other
no,
people.
no, no,
We'll get
no.
back to you.
now, here's the question. This is not our particular union meeting. This is also supposed to be about the vice presidency.
Well, actually, this is
So-
something that affected the entire,
All right, well,
everybody's Tuesday
so,
now.
Mr.
Thank
Brooks,
you.
Yes, sir.
can you ask, can you make a respond to Vilma about the raising of the union dues?
Well,
And after we speak to you, Luis, can you also give a response about that as well?
Well, I did.
Yeah, they already responded.
Okay.
They already responded.
Okay, I'd like to open up to a question from okay, sir.
This is for James. James, I think you're highly qualified for the office. You have the verbal, intellectual skills, you're a good communicator, you're a good strategic thinker. But I see two big problems you're being elected, which you have to address. Number one, a lot of people perceive you as being too much for James and not for the union, that you're too ambitious. Personally, I want somebody who's a wheeler dealer, as long as their ambitions coincide with the union. I don't see any problem with that at all. A lot of our great union leaders in the past were very ambitious. But I want you to address to those people who have that concern. Number two, your destiny is, in my mind, tied up with that of Karen. We elected Karen to go in there and shake things up. She did shake things up, but the outcome was that she was out of office, and none of us know the real story of everything that happened. But because of the vacuum, there are all kinds of rumors going around. I've heard many people say, both tour guides and ticket sellers, that they will not vote for you because they feel that you did Karen in. And so I would like you to respond to those people who have that concern that you somehow backstabbed Karen and were responsible for her being out of office. Those two things.
Well, the request, the motion to suspend Karen was brought by the Secretary Treasurer. At that meeting, I was the only person in that room to vote not to suspend Karen. The only one. Now, some of you are saying, what about Menson? Menson abstained. He didn't vote. I was the only one who said, I will not vote to do that. Then, Karen requested some documents to prepare for her defense. As local recording secretary, I was summoned out to the office to collect those documents. So, in gathering the documents, I read the documents. I compared the documents with the charges, and I began to realize that the charges had merit. But now the question in my mind was, do they rise to the level of removing a duly elected officer? Basically, how serious is it? And as time went on, and after a 12-hour hearing and 400 pages of transcripts, and I considered the absolute financial mess this union was in, and I considered the situation at Branch 3. Now, I hope you forgive me, Louis, I'm going to be candid. I believe that for many years, Carlos Padilla could not properly perform his duties. He continued to get reelected because he had friends at Branch 3 who, because they have a shared history, they worked together. Out of sentimentality, they kept turning out and voting and reelecting a man who should not have been our president.
You either.
And I had to consider, if I then voted to keep Karen on the board out of sentimentality, I was repeating exactly the error that had happened with the members of Branch 3 that I had railed against for a very long time. As far as the perception that the members have that I removed her from office, in fact, the vote was already 4 votes to remove her. My vote, if I had voted for her, she still would have been removed.
And that makes it okay.
Mr. Chair, are we getting, excuse me, man, are we getting away from why we here.
Yeah, that's,
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Well, we
This-
opened it up to
no,
rank
but
and file.
That's very
this is the rank and
And
file
actually-
question.
This is a
and
very
also
important issue.
Karen's-
This is very important.
Karen's removal is like the largest event
That's like the
on the
elephant in the room.
local level
Right.
in several years. And the only person who had any direct input on it is James. Now, there is the disadvantage that means this makes it all about James' candidacy,
Right.
and I'm sorry about that. But he's the only representative who got direct on that. So we're gonna have to
No.
figure out a couple ways to ask questions to people from branches we don't know anything about, and I promise we will. But we actually do have to get through this, because it is the single largest event on the local level it was bigger than voting out Carlos.
Well,
Yeah.
And your
I can say
members,
something too,
but
right?
your members
Okay.
were also
Then I
allowed
can say
to
something.
come here
Yeah,
and
yeah,
speak.
you wanna throw in on this, it will actually help us, it'll help us.
When you talked about Karen and Carlos, he mentioned Carlos, well, I supported her. I voted for her, and I didn't see any reason why she should have.
Well, can he finish the question? I
I
asked the
think, I
question,
thought
I'm
you did.
entitled to an
No, I
answer.
didn't. You didn't finish
I'm
it?
entitled to an answer.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, finish.
The transcript of that hearing, if anyone doubts the evidence or whether it was fair, was made available even though this was a confidential executive board meeting, from what I believe was the first time in our union's history, was made available as soon as it arrived, immediately to the membership. This was at the request of the membership, and I got those votes to release that transcript within 15 minutes of it arriving by telephone. The former president asked the International Union to stop us from releasing that transcript. They sent her a letter saying that we can ask them not to do it, but the local has autonomy and will decide for themselves. And then they copied me as local recording secretary on the letter that they wrote to Karen.
Okay.
Then
Sorry.
Karen appealed to the International Appeals Committee in Washington. The appeals committee, who knows none of us, the only person on that appeals committee who had any personal dealings with anyone who made a decision to remove Karen from office or knew Karen, was recused. So everyone who made this decision was just looking at the paper evidence, but there was no personal connections. They unanimously ruled to uphold the decision of the executive board after reading hundreds of pages of evidence. And now, as we brought up the Landrum-Griffin Act, as Karen I'm sure is aware, if Karen disagrees with the decision of the executive board or the decision of the International's Appeals Committee, she is free to go immediately to federal court and appeal that decision to a federal judge. And that's where it'll rest.
Okay, you done, James?
Yes.
Okay,
You didn't answer the first part.
Okay.
Regarding your being perceived as being concerned about James, overly ambitious, not really concerned about the union. I've heard too many people say that. You need to address that if you want to be.
Okay. David Sashray asked me to get involved with the union a few years ago. There was a contract negotiation coming up, and he said, you're well respected, people like your point of view, could you please get involved? And so I got involved writing with a committee, but I was like, although it was the committee's ideas, I was actually the person typing, I had a laptop. And so I came up with some draft positions that Carlos would carry to the negotiations. That's how my union involvement started, at the request of David Sashray. The negotiations went bad, the membership wanted a rat. Andy Sedor, the former shop steward, called me and said, James, would you please run what he was calling the rat committee, get in charge of the rat protests. And my shop steward asked me to do it, so I did it.